Good evening and welcome to the Lewisville Independent School District's third annual online social media town hall. I'm Jolene DeVito Yarbrough, your host, also an LISD parent, and we're excited to have you join us for an evening of great conversation. Tonight you're in for a treat, a lot to talk about, and you're going to hear directly from LISD teachers, students, parents, and even some Dallas area business leaders on our district's transformative initiatives. These initiatives focus on engaging our students in truly profound world-class learning. Throughout this hour, you can ask questions to our panel members about the topics that we're discussing tonight. If you haven't done that already via Facebook or tweeted us a question yet, please do so now using the designated hashtag LISDTownHall14. That'll get your questions to us, and we'll be taking those questions live. Before we begin, I'd like to share with you tonight's format, how it's going to work. First, we'll hear from Downing Middle School on its implementation of 1-to-X. Downing students, parents, teachers will be here to share their experiences with it during the past year. First with a short video, and then our panel members will answer questions about 1-to-X. Then PBLs will talk about project-based learning. We'll feature some Marcus High School students who participated in a PBL opportunity known as the Urban Land Institute Project. Really cool project. And to close our evening, Hicks Elementary School students and teachers will present how they have established a badging system similar to scouting programs, but this one with a focus on service. An amazing story on how our youngest citizens are making an impact, and a big one. But before we begin with our first panel, again a reminder, you can submit your question using the social media platform of your choice with the hashtag LISDTownHall14, or if you prefer email, you can do it that way as well, to townhall@lisd.net. Again, we'll get to as many questions as we can throughout the hour. Let's begin tonight's program. The two most popular questions we have received since LISD started the strategic design process, very simply, what is that? What is strategic design, and what are we trying to transform? Superintendent Dr. Waddell is here with us, and would you like to begin for us by answering those two basic questions? What's strategic design, Dr. Waddell?
Yes, Jolene, thank you very much. Those are great questions. Our strategic design is a process of transforming learning and teaching with a strong focus on engagement, enrichment, and rigor. Let's remember that the way we got started on strategic design is by bringing our community together to talk about what they valued and give us a direction that we needed to go. We believe that when our students are highly engaged, enrichment and rigor can take place. Tonight we're showcasing 3 schools that have allowed for more teacher collaboration across grade levels and districts. Teachers are working as teams and innovating together, resulting in more engaging and enriching work that allows rigor to take place. I think an important question to ask is, what is rigor? Some people, including the state, seem to believe that rigor is about developing a test that students can't pass. We believe that's wrong. We believe that rigor comes from the work that students do. We're about rigorous work, not a test that cannot be passed. In LISD, we don't just want to maintain rigor, we want to increase it. To increase rigor, you have to engage students in their learning. This is the heart of strategic design. Our panelists will talk more about this topic during the hour, Jolene, and so let's begin our presentations.
Dr. Waddell, thank you very much. In August, LISD launched a district-wide 1-to-X program where students in specific grade levels got an iPad. This technology was chosen because it's nationally recognized for what it can do for student creation and collaboration specifically. Last year, Downing Middle School was one of the campuses that piloted this initiative. Throughout the pilot, students were creating multimedia projects, publishing iBooks, blogging about their reflections on what they're learning, all on the iPad. And tonight, Downing students, parents, and teachers will share their experiences with 1-to-X, but first let's get a better understanding of this initiative.
We're in a very exciting time with education. We have a unique opportunity in Lewisville with the leadership that we have in place through our superintendent, with the strategic design vision that our community has laid out, to meet the needs of our students in a very different way.
Oh my gosh, it is so different, and I actually like the change a lot better. Before, we'd be like, everyone go grab a piece of paper from the stack, and now everyone's like, just pull out your iPads and get everything set up. And before, we would run out of paper, we would run out of pencils.
The 1X program has helped me a lot because other than writing on paper and like losing my paper, I know I have everything on my iPad. So it keeps me more organized.
When you walk into a 1-to-X classroom, you see a couple of different things. You'll notice that the teacher has the devices that students have access to, so they have the right platform to be able to meet the needs of their instruction. We also have a tablet for every student so that students can get into that mid-level content creation. And we provide a higher powered device that allows them to access a laptop in the classroom, work in teams, and really build out that more media-rich content creation capacity within the instructional environment.
With the technology in place, I can make it more relative to their lives, I've noticed. So, for example, we have the blogs that we just created online. They're able to see who's able to view their blog around the world, which is really interesting, and it gains their interest 10 times more than for me to say, hey, let's start a journal in a paper notebook journal spiral. They're not as motivated, but when they see it with the technology in place, it's just 100 times more effective.
It just opens up the world to a lot of more possibilities. Instead of teacher standing at the front, bore the heck out of me, now it's teacher goes around and facilitates and allows the kids to figure out the answers. Instead of trying to tell them the answers, you just kind of help them along and let them discover.
Providing the right access, providing a device that allows students to create really media-rich content and not, to go beyond just creating PowerPoints or go beyond just typing in paper. How do we really start to leverage the tools, the devices that we have access to at our fingertips to really change our instructional environment and to have an impact on the world around us? And that's what's most exciting for me about 1-to-X, that we are going to give students that opportunity.
X is not just I have an iPad. It's about student choice and creating their own content that demonstrates their learning. To begin our conversation, let me first introduce you to our panel. Representing Downing Middle School, we have some parents with us, Paul Mooring and Jaya Chilakamari, students Suzanne Beecher and Kim Fawn, and we also have some students with us. Thank you for being here, students, Catherine Mooring and Vivek Chilakamari. Thank you all for being here. We're going to start with some submitted questions for specifically the students. We have someone asking, what did your schoolwork look like before 1-to-X? And what does it look like now? Catherine, let me direct that one specifically to you.
Our schoolwork looks so much different now. Like when you walk into a classroom, you no longer see paper and pencil and a bunch of kids, trying to find their binders and looking through things. You see kids collaborating with each other, and you see people, having fun with their schoolwork and really understanding, what's going on. And people learn in their own way, and it's so much better because instead of one general type of learning, there's several. You can choose an app, you can choose a video, you can choose a PowerPoint. Like everyone just learns in their own way, and learning is so much deeper now, and understanding in the content is so much deeper now. So you can really see kids engaging in their schoolwork much better than they did before.
How about you on that topic? And also, how about your grades? How has it affected your grades?
Well, I know that the main difference in our previous schoolwork was that students were motivated more extrinsically, meaning they needed motivation outside of themselves, like teachers or grades, in order to actually be motivated to do their schoolwork. But now with 1-to-X, they feel, oh my God, I have an iPad, it's so much fun to do work. And I know personally, I love doing work now. I can play a game and suddenly know quadratic formulas. I mean, it's a big change since what it used to be in our school.
Let's ask this next question to the parents on the panel, and either one of you jump in on this. What advice, we have a question, what advice do you have for parents in establishing expectations for the iPad? Of course at home, but at school as well. How do you police that, for lack of a better word?
Okay, I'll just go first. I believe in technology, and I think that students, when they go to school and they start learning, they develop a sense of responsibility, and that comes over at home too. And And so they are faced with the technology, but they also know that it's a learning device, something that they use for learning through fun. And so it's always helped him learn better, and I didn't have to police anything on there because they now realize that when they have an iPad, it's not only about just a fun thing, just go play games that have no educational value, but something that actually makes you learn. So the policing is not there anymore because now they're using it to learn.
Yeah, I found that I have 2 students in the district, both of them 1 to X this year, and they know it's a tool for learning, and it's okay to have fun when you're learning. So it's worked well in our house as well. What about the expectations for the iPad at home, just to make sure that they're not overusing it or using it, you know, for things other than their schoolwork or learning for school? Do you have any advice for parents on how that works in your house?
It works really well for us. I mean, she's very independent, and that has really come out since she's been using the iPad. I mean, I think that it's really just helped her to grow and to mature at a very quick pace. I mean, she's not looking for any papers anymore or anything like that, and her collaboration with other students, it really has opened up a lot of freedom to them, and I'm sure for the teachers as well. And it's done a lot for us as parents. It's made things a lot easier. But then again, we can check it just as easy as, you know, when she's finished with something, hey, Dad, take a look at this and see what we've done. Check this video out. So it's been really, really, really good.
Yeah, I found that too with my student. If you ask them, show me something, show me how that works, it's a great way to get that conversation started at home.
And I'd like to add to that.
Go ahead.
One thing that I've noticed, and I should commend LISD on that, is the security procedures they have in place, because the kids can't get onto all the sites that we want to block them from, which as a parent, it's natural to make sure you protect your child. I mean, for instance, if they want to watch something on Netflix, he can't use his iPad from school to do that. So that's automatically something that I know that if he wants to do something totally entertainment, then it's he gets it through the home device, through our permissions, and he cannot misuse a school's device for something like that. And security is a very, I appreciate what's on there.
Let me bring our teachers into the conversation now, and specifically with this question that was emailed to us from Delise, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Delise Bissett. She asked about, for teachers specifically, monitoring the iPads during class time. How do you do that, and what are your expectations for the students and the iPads in the classroom?
Well, in my classroom, it's a little bit more open. I teach math, so students tend to finish their work at different rates. And so we have a board on the wall. It's called My Amazing Apps. And the students have apps that I have selected that they are allowed to play when they are done with their schoolwork. So they're all skill-based apps, and so there is learning involved. It's not just getting on the iPad and playing something with no value. So they're allowed to play games that help them develop fluency with integers or with fractions. So it's really useful for me.
Do you find yourself just kind of strolling around the classroom every once in a while, just in case?
I always am up and monitoring the students, because as a math teacher, there's always somebody in need of assistance. The iPads are no more of a distraction than a regular book was 2 years ago, because you always have the child who wants to pick up a book and read, and I still have that going on in the classroom as well.
We have a question from a student we will go to now. This one's submitted by Michael Mayers, an 8th grader at McCamey Middle School. He writes, I was wondering as to when and how iPads will be distributed to the rest of us, to all the class levels. I myself am going to the Flower Mound 9th grade campus next year, and basically that would be great if I could get an iPad, he says. An iPad would really enhance my learning experience and take my education to the next level. Dr. Waddell, everybody wants to know when they're going to get their iPad. Would you like to answer this question?
Sure. Michael, I'm happy to tell you that our incoming 9th grade students will receive an iPad next year, so you can look forward to that.
Yay, I'm glad I asked, right? This is an interesting question. Another one, this one from Lisa Haney. She's asking, what are the plans to provide primary students opportunities to use the iPad? Dr. Waddell, do we have an answer to that?
Yes, as part of our evaluation process, we have some elementary campuses where iPads have been given to all the kids, first grade through third. We also have some additional campuses where we provided iPads, but not to individual students K through 3. We provided class sets to them. So what we're doing is we're collecting data on these two models and looking at them and making a determination what we feel would be best for these younger children.
All right, thank you for that. And throughout the week and during this hour as well, we've gotten a lot of questions about evaluating the impact of 1 to X. Are we evaluating it? How do we know that it's working, if it's working, and if there's any room for improvement? Dr. Waddell, can you expand on that for us? Are we evaluating this?
Well, I think one thing that schools, not only Lewisville ISD, but schools everywhere in the country have not done a good job doing is evaluating major programs. However, that's just not the case with 1 to X. We are doing extensive evaluations of the type of devices we're using, of the utilization in the classroom, working with teachers and with students, sending in people to evaluate it, coming in and monitoring it in the schools. We also have conducted an evaluation of the devices we're currently using, which are Apple devices, but also other operating system devices that run off other operating systems as well. And we will be reporting that this spring, this next month, both of those data sets to our board during a board meeting.
Dr. Waddell, if I may throw a little curveball at you and ask a question myself as a parent of 2 1 to X students, they're asking me, do we keep the iPads over the summer? Is that a district-wide decision? Is it a campus-by-campus basis? I guess we're wondering what's going to happen to this iPad in a few weeks.
No, the students who have been issued iPads are going to keep those over the summertime. So that's been our plan all along, and it would be a major issue to try to check those iPads back in and collect them and store them and then get those passed out again this year. We also want the iPads to be available for kids during the summertime to enrich their summer. One thing that happens every year is there's something we call regression that occurs with learning. We're hoping that by the students being able to have their iPads and use them during the summertime, that will help on that problem.
A little parent tip as well that I've picked up on, I can always tell when my students are doing something educational because they have better posture when they're iPad doing that. When they're just playing, they tend to slump. Try that at home, it might work for you. Dr. Waddell, one more on 1 to X for you, and then I'd like to ask our parents and specifically teachers this as well. And this was a question that was tweeted in to us this evening. The challenges. What have been the challenges of implementing 1 to X? And Dr. Waddell, let me start with you and then ask our teachers to participate in that one as well.
Well, that's a big question. You know, it's what we're doing is a new initiative, and those school districts are doing that across the area and really across the nation, and both public and private schools are implementing one-to-one types of rollouts. A lot of this is new territory for us. We had some bumps in the road in our early rollout that we had to solve. We felt like we solved that pretty quickly. With teachers having and students having mobile devices in the classroom, they've been on a steep learning curve and learning how to use those effectively. And it's only natural that some would be able to do that a little more quickly than others. It's that way in any kind of learning that you have going on. Some are ready to go and some require more time. That's okay with us. We expected that. And people need to get comfortable with things. What we've seen during the course of the year is both teachers and students have become more and more adept at how to effectively use the iPad. And that's going to continue to be the case as we move on. It's going to be less of a novelty. I go into classrooms where I see teachers giving choice to students about using digital devices. or if they prefer using more traditional ways of working on problems or the projects that they have going on in their classroom. So we've been working on this together, but it's been a complex issue. I'll just say this: I'm proud of very proud of our teachers and our students, as well as our parents, in terms of all the work they've done to make this a success. There's been bumps, there's been problems, but we've solved those. You expect that when you take on new initiatives.
Let me get our teachers to chime in as well on any challenges you've had and your final thoughts on 1 to X.
One of the challenges might be that I'm not as savvy as the kids when it comes to different apps. It's amazing what they could do, the final products that they create, and they'll show it to me and I go, okay, show me how to do that. And it's like, learning all over again. So we learn from the kids on, the multiple apps and the educational apps.
Final thoughts from any of the rest of you on the panel?
I think this is an awesome implementation.
Yes.
Very lucky to be part of the school district and have my child take advantage of this. So
Absolutely.
very happy about that.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you all very much for joining us and for helping us with this discussion on 1 to X. Certainly a popular topic this evening. Thank you at home for submitting your questions. Also, a big thank you, of course, to the Downing Middle School panel for sharing your thoughts and spending your time with us this evening. We appreciate it. Now, PBL. Let's take a look at what Marcus High School students have been up to with the Urban Plan, which is a form of project-based learning.
Kids are presented with, are put in teams and are presented with a 9-block area in the city of Yorktown. It's called the Elmwood neighborhood area. It's got a lot of needs that the city wants from a lot of different socioeconomic people living there. They want wealthy people living there, middle class, all sorts. They wanted homes for their teachers and firefighters and police officers.
We had the most problem deciding what to keep, what to not keep, what was the most profitable. We really wanted to have a green city, but it's hard to put in a bunch of parks because they don't make money for you. So it's just hard adding things that people want and the things that the city wants and just making those work together.
The point is, no matter what the kids do, they're going to make some people unhappy. They have 7 different powerful neighborhood groups that all have very strong opinions, and they're conflicting opinions, so you make one happy, you automatically upset somebody else.
I learned that you really have to work as a team in order to execute everything properly. If one person is working just by themselves, it's not going to be a very profitable city. You all have to rely on one another to do your specific role in that project.
So you do teach a lot of economics through it, but I think the greater good is students are being challenged at a very, very high level. And so I think the overall purpose of a project like this is personal growth with these kids. There isn't a curriculum. I mean, even though it hits a lot of economics, we like the fact that kids will tell us they can't drive around the city without noticing things the same way. Every time they build something, they know all the decisions and battles that were probably behind that decision. These kids amaze me. Every year I watch them, I still can't believe I'm watching high school students do this, and to think like they think and solve problems like they solve. I just have never seen it. So it's really hard. I think what I want everyone to understand is this was given to me by people at Cal State Berkeley that developed it. It's really hard to create something as magical as Urban Plan is. But I think once you get a taste of it, once you see your kids perform at that level, it hurts your feelings the rest of the year when they don't perform at that level.
You really have to invest your hours and whatnot into it, whereas like a multiple choice test, you can just memorize the answers and you're not going to learn anything from it a year later. I'm still going to remember Urban Project a year from now because of how we handled it.
one example, a great example of project-based learning, PBLs, we call it. And to hear more about that from our panel, to answer your questions specifically about that project, the urban plan, and project-based learning overall, are students from Matthew Stobrel's class. Welcome Maddie Burmeister, Matthew Sanford, and Armin Karahodza. I hope I got all this right. And Mr. Stobrel is here with them. Thank you for being here. Also on our panel, two Dallas area business executives. Philip Bankhead is Senior Vice President with Northmark Capital. That's a privately held mortgage banking company, one of the biggest in the U.S. He's also the chairman of Urban Land Institute. Lynn Mortensen recently retired from Raytheon as Vice President of Engineering. She received several awards during her career, including the Malcolm R. Curie Innovation Award, not too shabby. She's passionate about science and technology and programs in our nation's schools. Thank you, Philip and Lynn, for joining us very much. We appreciate it. To kick off the discussion, let's just start at the very beginning. Very simple, project-based learning. Dr. Waddell, it's more than just here's a project to do. Can you expand on that? What is a PBL? What is project-based learning?
Yes, Jolene, project-based learning is about providing students the opportunity to solve real-world problems, real-world challenges. It's a way to make learning meaningful and relevant for our students. It's a way to engage our students to do deeper level work, to work collaboratively, to communicate ideas, and to be creative innovators. Project-based learning has been advocated by a number of groups and foundations, including the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who have supported PBLs through various grants. It also is being utilized across the nation in universities. It's a way to engage our kids and personalize their learning and allow them to apply the content that they've learned in classrooms and demonstrate that they really know what they're doing. The Urban Plan is a great example of a project-based learning opportunity that we were able to provide to some of our high school students. That was brought to us by the Urban Land Institute. And we feel like we wanted to use the Urban Plan because we felt like it would be a great model for our district to look at what well-designed PBLs are.
We have questions for our students who are really in the trenches with the PBL concept and specifically this one. Armin, let me just direct this at you and then the rest of you jump in as well. It's two questions you could probably answer in one. How has the Urban Plan project been different than other just traditional high school project you've been assigned? And why was this experience a good one for you?
Sure, yes. Urban Plan is a lot different than normal high school projects that we do, because the normal projects that we do, if you get an 80 or a 90 percentile on it, or a B or an A, everything's fine and you feel successful and you feel like you've done everything you needed to do and you walk out with a good grade. But whereas in Urban Plan, if you do something, you can give 110%, and at the day that the city council comes in and you still might not win, and you might not leave with the satisfaction that you would have getting an A in a normal project.
And would you say it's overall a good experience for you?
Yes, ma'am. It's a great learning experience. It teaches you how the real world is and how it really feels to give 100% and you still don't walk out with a win.
And how about the element of working in collaboration with others?
Sure.
That's a skill in and of itself, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. Working with a whole group, it teaches you how to be a leader, how to work with others. Whereas in normal projects you do in school, you can get away with doing everything on your own, but in Urban Plan, you really have to know what every single person's doing and that everybody's doing their task that they're assigned, and you have to come together as a team for it to really mesh.
Mr. Stobrel, we have a question for you. The question, when did you decide to participate in the Urban Plan Institute? What were your initial thoughts? Off the bat, what did you expect? And afterwards, your thoughts. How did it meet what your expectations were going into it?
Well, initially this was not generated by me. This truly was a gift given to me. I just looking for different ways to teach kids, different ways to impact kids, and decided to give it a try, and went down to training and thought that You know, this was really impressive. This was something that was really had a chance to work. I was very nervous, though. I was very skeptical because I knew the high level expectations that were being placed on these high school students. Professional land use developers and professionals are going to come into the classroom and really challenge these kids' creativity and their ideas. And I didn't know, would they be up to the task? Would they do the due diligence to stand up to these people? Would they be excellent? Because to do something like this, they really had to be excellent. We don't always get excellence in our high school classrooms. They're capable of it. It's in there. And as a teacher, I've failed several times at getting excellence out of my students. So I was very nervous. But I decided to quit doubting my students and start believing in them. And after that first city council meeting last spring, I couldn't believe it. What these kids could do, what Armin and Matt did this past spring, just still blows me away. And I'm hungry to see more of it.
Billy, do you mind me adding to this?
Absolutely.
He said first city council meeting, and Armin said something about it meant a lot to him, but even if you don't win, and probably the audience may not be quite clear on what that means. These students presented projects that were solving urban development problems, and they had to, as teams, present to a mock city council, and those city council members were members of the Urban Land Institute. So the winning part is if you were the team that actually they selected as the winner. But I think what Armin was saying is, and I think it help our audience to know that, but that I think would you all agree that everybody felt like they were winners, really, whether they actually won the prize or not?
It's a winning experience.
Let me get your thoughts on the project and your thoughts on whether, winner or loser. Do you feel like you ultimately won because of what you learned from the project?
Well, at first I was kind of nervous about the program. I didn't know if I'd be any good at it. I kind of thought it was just going to be like a really hard project that I didn't want to do at all. But then we kind of got into it, and it was really a lot of fun. I got into my role, and it actually motivated me to want to learn and do better. And as far as the winning, I think just the experience was a win for me because it was like real world. It actually mattered what I was doing.
And just to be able to present something, there's a lot to be learned from that alone, just to be able to know it so well that you can present it in a confident, informative way. Philip, a question for you that was submitted. Why LISD, and why is this initiative important to high school students?
Well, we ended up at Lewisville. Primarily, actually, a couple of different members had recommended that we look into the school district and were aware of some of the progressive things that Dr. Waddell was doing here. And so we looked into expanding into the LISD schools. Just a clarification, I chair the Urban Plan Initiative of the North Texas Council. The ULI as an organization actually is an international group of 30,000 professionals that are involved in some form of real estate, whether it be in the private sector or even the public officials like city councilmen or city managers, that sort of thing. So it's really a very large organization, and we at the North Texas Council were one of 15 or 16 that are doing urban plan across the country. But Lewisville, particularly because they're accepting of the concept of kind of breaking the mold of not just being focused on collecting data, analyzing that, and presenting testing on that, because this project-based learning tool is completely different of that. So the fact that they were accepting was a big part of it. The fact that we analyzed the schools that we went into, because it really is a partnership. We made sure that the students were proficient from a language, reading comprehension, critical thinking standpoint, that they really could kind of measure up to the test, quite frankly. The fact that absenteeism was not an issue were all critical things of when we kind of say, yes, from a partnership standpoint, we would like to expand into the school, because it really is a turnkey operation. We supply all the expenses involved in it, and we volunteer our people to come into the classroom and work with the students. Critical as well is having the right teacher, and we found that the hard way sometimes. We've had the right school system and support at the administration level, and ended up with the wrong teacher and had to kind of retract back. And Matt has done a great job in promoting this and supporting his students the way that they need to be. This is intended to be, I guess one critical thing I want to just point out, the fact that our involvement as professionals, we come into the classroom not as lecturers and say, this is how you do it. Instead, we work with the teams to facilitate their process of critical thinking through the 3-week curriculum, and then lastly come in, as Dr. Waddell was talking about, and act as a mock city council and actually pick a winner. It's a competition, which we think is critical to the success of the program.
Lynn, I'd love to have you jump in here and add to Philip's answer, but also you've gone on record as saying that project-based learning should be taught in all our nation's schools. Why are you such a fan? Can you explain?
Well, project-based learning mimics how we work in industry. Very infrequently does an individual do something all by themselves. We work in teams, we come together to solve a problem, we have to communicate with each other, with our leaders and our managers. And from a student perspective, it is much easier to learn a concept when you can apply it to something that is real in the world today, such as geometry being applied to how you build a house, or a physics problem when you're trying to figure out how light your car needs to be if you want to get 100 miles per gallon of gas. From an industry perspective, we're looking for problem solvers to come into industry. And we're expecting that our new workforce of the future, they know the basics. Our universities today, our colleges are all incorporating problem-based learning. And if we start back in our K through 12 schools, then these students will be prepared. Because believe it or not, when students are coming into a technology company, especially today, we're not asking them about the basics. We're asking them to bring a portfolio. What kind of problems have you worked on? What kinds of teams have you been in? What have you learned? Sometimes we're even asking them to solve a problem right there in the interview session. So doing this in K through 12, anywhere along the way, helps prepare our students for the future. And that's really what we need, is a prepared workforce for the future.
We have a question coming in from Heather on social media. What was impactful about the project that you did not foresee going in? Mr. Stobril, let me start with you on that and then get the students' thoughts.
What impacted the students?
What was impactful that you didn't expect?
Well, I think the beauty of the program is when you do a big project like this with so many students in all these different teams, different students, what impacted me is how many different lessons were taught, and each student learned a different lesson. I had a class or a team that had a member, a dominant AP student. This young lady is a tremendous student with a bright future, but was used to controlling every group she's ever been in. Urban Plan doesn't let you do that. She was the city liaison officer, and that's all she could do. She had to depend on a site planner to do their job. She had to depend on the neighborhood liaison to do their job. She had to depend on a financial analyst and marketing director to do their job, and she had to depend on them. And when we actually got into the actual final city council meeting, they ran out of time before they got to her, and their team won. And she realized, I won because of my teammates. And she told me, and I have a reflection letter from her saying, I need to learn to trust people more and the talents of other people. That's a powerful lesson for a young lady that I never intended. I had a girl terrified of public speaking, and now she's facing not just speaking to professionals, she's facing inquiry. These people are really trying to take apart your argument, and she had to stand up there prepared through due diligence to be able to answer those hard questions. And she learned to face her fears and not run away from that challenge, and told me it changed her life. And and some students step up, kids you never thought were going to be leaders, learn to be leaders, and really know how to tap into the productivity and talents of their teammates. And lastly, unfortunately for some students, they learned through failure. They didn't do their due diligence, they didn't step up, and when that happens in a normal classroom, you get a bad grade on a test, you retake it, you move on with your life. When these students failed in urban plan, it hurt. They let their teams down, and they were embarrassed, and they could not stand up and face the fire with city council. So whether it's learning how to work in a team, learning how to do critical analysis and have a voice in a group, being creative and learn how to defend your answer and be self-critical of your own solutions, whether it's public speaking or all these lessons, you just don't know what a single kid will take from it. That's what impacted me the most.
Dr. Waddell, when you hear that, what are your thoughts beyond proud and beyond that it's such a great way for students to learn? How do we get this opportunity for even more students in the district?
Well, my first reaction, just listening to what Mr. Storble just said, is I was speaking earlier about rigor. If what he just described is not rigor, I don't know what is. You know, and it goes so much further than just doing your homework and handing it in and getting a grade, or taking a test and handing it in and getting a grade. They're having to learn at levels that go beyond just doing what's asked of them to do, doing what's required of them to do, because they're going to have to stand up and defend that work. They're going to have to be responsible to their peers. They're going to have to learn things deeply because they don't know what kind of questions are going to be asked of them by those on the panel. But they're also practicing other things that are hard to do with just fill in the blank or multiple choice. They're learning how to be leaders. They're learning how to be responsible. They're learning how to be resourceful. They're learning how to work in teams. They're learning, this young lady who's a successful AP student that he described is learning that along with her academic skills, she's learning how to, about how to work with other people and become even more productive than what she was. And these are things that they're all going to practice, as we've heard from our business partners, in both college and in the working world. I think it's important to note we're talking about two professionals here who come from really some of the great companies in our nation. For me, as an educator, if we can connect with real world, with industry, and align what we do to that, I think we're doing the right thing for our kids. Certainly, the banking industry and engineering technology industry are very rigorous and high-level areas of work. So that's what I get out of this. It's been meaningful for our kids, and they've learned things about themselves that go beyond what we've traditionally done.
When we were talking about 1 to X earlier in the program, we talked about some growing pains. Anytime you do something new, it can come with some growing pains. And here's a question that was just submitted late this afternoon, somewhat along those lines. My student has been assigned several PBLs this year, and my concern is the volume all at once. What are your thoughts on this? Dr. Waddell, could I start with you?
Yes, I'd call this a growing pain, and it's a good question. Project-based learning we think it's a great way to learn, a great methodology, but it's just one great methodology. We want to give our kids that opportunity. We've heard that it's valuable real-world experience that they're going to have to deal with at both college and work, but it's still not the only way for students to learn. We want our teachers to use this, but we also want them to have the freedom to choose other types of methodologies when it's appropriate. Whatever it takes to most effectively teach our kids what they're trying to learn from the curriculum. We want our PBLs to be based on the curriculum, to have a connection with what it is we want to learn. But this deal of, we also have to learn that we have to do a little better job of coordinating in the schools so we're not overloading our kids who are working on projects. And that's something we're aware of, both making sure that we're connecting it to the curriculum, We're doing it in a rigorous way. We're assigning roles, as we heard on this project. It's important to assign appropriate roles, and then not to just be sending multiple projects home where kids are doing it all night long every night. That's not what we're looking for, and we're working to get all that worked out. As you said, Jolene, it's a learning process, but we are learning from it.
Great questions and a great discussion about PBLs. Thank you to you at home for sending in the questions. And of course, thank you to Marcus High School. And a very special thank you to Philip Bankhead and Lynn Mortensen for joining us for this discussion. We appreciate your time and your help. Our last panel is from Hicks Elementary School. That's coming up in just a moment. Joining us, we have students Ethan Sayre, Alexa Moldenhauer, Ariana Moldenhauer, and Tyler Bourbonnais will be here with us in just a moment. We also have a teacher and parent, Carrie Diven, and the principal's here as well. That's Curtis Martin. Before we get to that panel, though, let's take a look at what they've been up to this year.
Last year, our campus design committee met, and we were trying to design a system to increase accountability for students and to really transform the way we do education here at Hicks Elementary School. And what we decided to do was have a system of 6 badges that students collect through the year to go towards an academic medal at the end of the year. Students will present their 3 favorite projects from the year to an assessment panel of educators to show off all the authentic work that they've done this year.
We do a project based on our badges. Like one was digital safety, and we just had to make a project talking about how to be safe on the internet. And so like when we complete a project, we get our badge. We've done the cyber safety one, our Act Local, our New World Settlement for our PBL, and our Google Sites for presentation.
I think that it was important, like the cyberbullying thing. I thought that was really important because those are things that, since like the world is changing with technology and everything, like it's going to be important for people to know, especially our age, to know how to be safe on it.
Kids really get to choose how they're going to present the information that they've learned. And so, you know, in anything, once you've learned something, if you can present it, then you've really learned it to be able to teach it to someone else.
One of the badges in particular was based on our Act Local project, where they were told to make a difference in their community.
I did an Act Local with my sister where we just donated clothes and books to people who aren't as fortunate as us.
Me and Corey did. We took food to a homeless man and his dog. He was a homeless veteran, and we videoed all of it and talked about it, and then we loaded it on to YouTube.
It seemed to have a big impact on the whole campus. The personality of the school, I think, was shifted because of this, because the kids decided, hey, I have a part in treating others with kindness. And that happens every day, not just when I'm doing a project.
It's taught us to have more faith and trust in the kids and in their attitude about learning, and by giving them that freedom, they actually get a more authentic learning, deeper learning, because they're excited about it. And it's really fun because you get to know your students more.
As our first year of doing the badge system and our academic medal program, we feel like we've grown a lot, we've learned a lot, we've clearly defined the direction that we want to go instructionally, but the badge system has given us a structure by which to implement the goals that we have for our campus, and it's been very effective doing it that way.
Love that. Authentic learning and deeper learning. What an impact our students are making. Let's begin with those students and some questions for you folks over there. I'm going to ask all of you, what was your favorite part of the badging system and why? Ethan, let me start with you. What was your favorite part and why?
I thought that the favorite part was when we did our Acts Local, and I thought the Acts Local was my favorite part because we got to help the community and we got to have fun while we do that.
Good answer. Alexa, how about you?
Well, like,
I like how we do these fun activities to earn the badges. Like this past couple of weeks, we've been working on our Act Local, and we've been doing some our fun stuff.
How about you, Tyler?
I liked it because we did these activities that were pretty fun, and we went on our laptops, and so we did these little PowerPoints and all that, and that was what I liked.
And Ariana, you're left, right? How about you? What was your favorite part?
Well, I would have to agree with Ethan. I love the Act Local project. I liked helping the community, just like Ethan said.
Parents and teacher panelists over there, let me ask you, what's your experience been in watching the students take ownership of this and seeing the difference they're making? Any one of you can jump in.
Well, I really see the students getting more of an opportunity to take a part in their own learning. It's a lot more authentic learning, and they seem to really enjoy it, and I think that they really get a lot more out of all the different activities and the goals for the badges that we have been working on.
This one for Mr. Martin. Through the badging system, what's the biggest difference you've seen this school year since you implemented it?
I think the biggest difference I've seen is an accountability for both the teachers and the students to get these really large, all-encompassing projects and ideas done. Like this year, because of the badge system, one of the badge goals was to start their e-portfolio and make a digital portfolio for every student. And so we did this kindergarten through 5th grade. And having 5, 6, and 7-year-olds design their own website is a very challenging educational thing to happen, but they've really achieved it because of the badge system and having a structure. Helping the community was a big question. Digital citizenship and anti-bullying were big things that we've been implementing in different ways, but just the structure made sure that we did it in such a way that we know that every child has these things accomplished at Hicks. So it's been a great learning experience for the faculty for sure.
We have a question coming in on Twitter. Mr. Martin, let me start with you on this. Dan is wondering, now that we have a year under our belt of the badging system, what improvements might you make on the program for next year? How do you grow it?
Well, our building leadership team decides on what they're doing and on what badges we do. And so we talked about definitely keeping the digital citizenship badge, definitely keeping the anti-bullying badge. Our Act Local project was our campus PBL this year, and the teachers liked it and the kids liked it so much because it asked the questions, how can I as an elementary school student make a difference in our community? And so we're going to keep that project but call it a service learning badge. And then we have a new theme because we do a theme each year, and next year it's going to be Discover Your Past, and we're going to talk about all the things that we have as far as lineage and where culture and family came from, and then we'll keep the assessment panels for sure. One of the things we're going to do differently is we're going to, instead of collect badges that are basically stickers that we put on the wall, we're going to have a wolf paw for each student, and for each activity that they do, they get a new finger or claw, or we haven't decided what we're going to call it. So at the end of the year, they'll have their wolf paw filled in, which I think may be a neat visual. So just little tinkerings, but we want to keep the core idea of how to get the kids to really think about making a difference in their community and being kind and good to each other.
Dr. Waddell, I have to get you in on this part of the conversation. What are your thoughts, your reaction to what they're doing at Hicks?
I just think it's so interesting, and you know, there's been a lot of conversation the last few years, especially these last 2 years, about high stakes testing and the accountability system, and parents across the state of Texas have asked the state legislature to scale back on that. They were successful in the legislature by getting House Bill 5 passed. This has been a grassroots movement. But we've been with our accountability system for some time. And, you know, if it's going to change, what are we going to change it to? And I think Hicks has come up with a great idea because we all understand merit badges. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Eagle Scouts is something we know, we understand, and we believe in. And I think by thinking about adding badges for accomplishment, It's not like we're coming up with a brand new idea that we've never had before and we wonder what it means. People understand what badges mean, what merit badges mean, and I think Hicks has done a great job in being innovative, but yet using something that people know and understand. So I'm excited about it. This could be something that's a lot more meaningful than talking about being recognized or exemplary or meeting standard.
Kids, let me ask you another question. Last time I asked you what was your favorite part, and now I want to ask each of you, what are you most proud of that you did through the badging system? And Ethan, let me start with you. What are you proud of that you did?
I really like my Act Local project. Like I said on the first question, I said the Act Local project. And I'm going to say the Act Local project again because that was one of my biggest accomplishments that I ever had before. So.
Good for you. Good for you. Okay, Alexa, how about you? What are you most proud of?
Well, like my Act Local, I really like doing it, and we've done a lot. So we went to Operation Kindness and donated a lot of money, and I was really proud of that.
Did you end up with bringing home a puppy or anything from Operation Kindness?
No.
See, I can't go there without bringing a puppy home, so I wouldn't be able to do that. Tyler, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of my Act Local, like Ethan and Alexa, but I liked it because I got to go and pick up recycling trash and follow a neat new stream, and
that's awesome.
It's cool.
That is awesome. Ariana, how about you? What are you most proud of?
I'm also proud of my Act Local, but I'm also proud of making a website. That was really challenging for me because all this new stuff this year, last year, it was so much different.
We have a question coming in on Twitter. Someone who I think likes what they hear, and they're wondering if this will be a system that you could share with other schools, that other schools might implement. Mr. Martin, let me ask you.
Actually, yes, there are several. I know of 2 other schools in the Lewisville district that are going to adopt a badging system like this next year, and are working with their building leadership teams to make it their own, but make it something that they get campus initiatives accomplished with. So I think it just provides a structure that a campus leadership team can use to get those things done. So there's other schools that are excited about it.
Ms. Stiven, let me ask you quickly, what advice would you give to other schools that might be implementing a similar program?
I would say just embrace it and, go in it 100% with your students. Not only has this been a big learning year for the kids, it's definitely been a learning experience for the teachers as well, and we've come out the other side so positive, and, we even have, I think, our own favorite badges. I would say the e-portfolios was my favorite, but just because I got to see so much individuality with my kids and the pride that they felt by choosing the assignments that got to go on there and being able to show those off. It really was a showcase, but it was everything that they put into it. So I would just say roll with it and have a good time because you're going to learn a lot with your kids, and they're really going to enjoy it as well.
Well, thank you all for coming in tonight to share the ins and outs of the program with us. And kids, great job. You did wonderful tonight. Thank you. Thanks to everyone who came, all of our schools, the parents and teachers who helped us with this town hall by sharing their experiences with us. Also, a very special thank you to Philip Bankhead and Lynn Mortensen for joining us as well. Dr. Waddell, let me hand it back over to you for any closing thoughts.
Thank you, Jolene. I too would like to take this opportunity to thank all of our outstanding panelists. I think that these young people are awesome. To sit here and look in TV cameras, knowing there's hundreds or thousands of people out there watching them, to be so poised, I think is amazing. But I'm proud of what I've heard, what our community's heard about what our schools are doing. And these are just some examples. They're great examples, but they're just some examples of what's going on in the district. I think, taking best practices, this is what strategic design is all about. Allowing our teachers and principals and students freedom to start doing some innovations and coming up with things that work better, provide better learning for our children, causing their learning to deepen and to become more meaningful and important to them, is strategic design. And so we don't expect it to be a cookie cutter. It's not. Our people are smart, they have great ideas, they have the ability to think, and they're making things better for kids. We hope their story showcases how 1-to-X, project-based learning, and building strong character is important to help prepare our students for the futures that they create. And we recognize that transformation takes time. It's not always clean. It's messy sometimes, but that's the way it is, even in industry when you're tackling new ideas, new products, new innovations. And it's a similar kind of process. We believe doing this with our students and teachers helps prepare them, our students, for their 21st century. Let's remember that today's kindergartners will be leading the world in 2060. We have no way of knowing what that world will be like. We only know it's going to be profoundly different than the one that we're living in today. But by doing the kinds of things that you heard about tonight, we believe that we can help prepare them for that world. We know how much technology has changed the world, how the internet has made our world more global than ever before. Recognizing this rapid change, adapting to it, we know that our students, to be successful, are going to need to be creators, designers, entrepreneurs, technologically adept, collaborative, and much more. All of these are college and career-ready skills, and we are doing our best to prepare our kids for that college and career world. Through our panel conversations, I hope you've seen a glimpse of the direction we are headed in. If you have any additional questions about our initiatives highlighted this evening, please submit them to townhall@lisd.net, and we will continue to answer them throughout next week. And as we close, I also want to thank you, our viewers. LISD is a premier school district. I hope, like me, you were gratified to hear Mr. Bankhead say that tonight. That meant a lot to me. It's that way because of your support that we're known throughout the state and nation as a school district of choice. I'd also like to thank you, Jolene, for hosting tonight's town hall.
Absolutely. My absolute pleasure. Thank you, Dr. Waddell. On behalf of all of the Lewisville ISD, thank you for tuning in to tonight's town hall. This webcast will be posted on www.lisd.net if you'd like to watch it again or recommend someone watch it. Before we sign off, the Office of Public Information and Community Relations and Jolene would like to personally thank Mr. Brandon Jackson's broadcast students for producing this, our third annual social media town hall. Students, you did a great job. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.